even more PlayStation games are coming to PC. As someone who plays the vast majority of their games on PC, one of my favorite things about this generation is that Sony is actually starting to bring a lot of their biggest games over to that platform. We've already had Horizon Zero Dawn, which was kind of a rough port. We've had Death Stranding, we've had Days Gone, which I love so much on PC, and it's looking like we've got Uncharted 4 coming soon, but there's another game that just got added to the list that makes me so much more excited, and that game is Ghost of Tsushima. This definitely hasn't been confirmed yet or anything, but there is something that happened that really makes me actually believe it is going to be a possibility, and that's that the game box art was very slightly updated to no longer have the only on PlayStation badge that so many of PlayStation's exclusives have. And it gets even more believable when you consider that this is the PS4's box art getting updated. Sony's going back and changing the box art very slightly on just the PS4 edition of this game. Now, it could also signify a full native PS5 release coming down the line, because games like Miles Morales and Sackboy: A Big Adventure also don't have that only on PlayStation banner, but I don't think Ghost of Tsushima is a game that they would really have to update for PS5, since they already gave it a pretty big patch that helps it run at 4K 60 frames per second. Like, how much more could you do at that point? I guess they could add ray tracing, but that's stuff that I would want to see in a sequel more than them go back and edit the original game. Now, I know a PC release wouldn't really add too much on the surface to the PS5 version, and I could just play the disc I already have, but the big benefit of playing on PC for me is that I play on a gaming laptop. And with open world games, my favorite thing to do is throw a movie on the TV and keep my laptop on my lap while I check off side quests, because I really hate checking off side quests when my whole TV is monopolized by the PS5. It's mindless, it's boring, I usually turn on a podcast, so being able to do it on my laptop sounds so much more fun. Also, using the bow and arrow if I'm sitting at my desk on my monitor with a keyboard and mouse, that's exactly what I want out of a game like this. So yeah, Sony, please keep releasing your games on PC. You're making this gamer really happy. Another PS5 game that's seemingly coming to PC is Bloodborne, which I think would make so many people excited. If you guys haven't played Bloodborne, it's a Sony-produced spin-off from the Dark Souls series that's main focus was making the game more accessible. So instead of being a super hardcore game where you're dying left and right because you only have 3 or 4 Estus flasks that limit how long a run can be, Bloodborne has a consumable healing option that you can grind out to have as many as you want. You also have a gun that can break enemy animations if they're just wailing on you over and over again, and it's way easier to fight most of the bosses in the game. The coolest aspect about it for me though is that instead of being dark fantasy where you've got dragons and suits of armor and skeletons running around, it's more of a like gothic horror inspired thing. Like Dracula could pop up at any second in the Bloodborne world and I would not bat an eye. You also have stuff like werewolves to fight. It's very horror inspired is what I'm trying to say. And instead of wearing armor, there are actually very few armor sets in the entire game. Most of it is like Plague Doctor looking gear. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I would highly recommend checking out Bloodborne. But the annoying thing about it is that Bloodborne has been locked at its PS4 release forever. They never updated it to run better on PS4 Pro. They've never given it an update to run better on PS5. And one of the coolest things about this native PC release that's supposedly coming is also a PS5 update, which is exactly what everyone wants. All of this news is coming from a Twitter account called Souls Hunt, who's actually leaked some stuff before in the past, so that's why I'm inclined to believe it. And they're making it seem like this update that Bloodborne's going to get is going to be way more full featured than just a patch that unlocks the frame rate or something like that. Now, the one thing everyone is really wondering about is whether or not we're going to get a sequel, and I would say that we're probably not going to get one unless Sony wants to hire Bluepoint to make it, because we all know that FromSoft, the original developers, are working on Elden Ring and they prefer working on new franchises instead of doing tons of sequels. I mean, they had to do it with Dark Souls because that was one of the biggest franchises ever for Namco Bandai, but they've moved on to doing single games like Sekiro and now Elden Ring. But hey, even though this is blasphemy for a lot of you people out there, I really wouldn't mind seeing what Bluepoint could do with the franchise, because they've shown they know how to make a Souls game by remaking Demon Souls. They did an incredible job just capturing what that game was and really not changing a whole lot about the aesthetic, so I feel like they could play in the sandbox of Bloodborne just fine. And if you're not convinced people want Bloodborne on PC and PS5, Sony released the top games that are streamed on PS Now and firmly planted at #1 is Bloodborne. Now, because Bloodborne is available on the PS4, which also means it's available on the PS5, I'm assuming that most people are just natively downloading it to their PS5s and playing it there, so the people streaming Bloodborne have got to be people on PC. And that makes a ton of sense because the Souls community on PC is huge. There's tons of modders out there, there's people digging through the lore, making awesome update videos that tell you the story of the world, so I feel like having one game absent from the PC pantheon of Souls games means that they're going to want to play it. Now, you could say that, well, they already streamed this game on PS Now, so why would they buy it again on PC? PC. And I'm telling you right now, every single person who streamed it would definitely just double dip and pick it up because they want to show support to that franchise and they really want a sequel. Going back to that list of most streamed games on PS Now though, the craziest thing I saw in there is that the second most streamed game is Horizon Zero Dawn, and I'm really curious where that one's being streamed because it's available on PC, it's available on PS4, it's available on PS5, and the complete edition of Horizon Zero Dawn was available to just get for free with all the DLC expansions for months. So I'm wondering who exactly is taking the time out of their day to stream Horizon Zero Dawn over the internet. That seems like possibly the worst way to play a combat-focused game like that. And speaking of games that people really want to come back, there's a huge update on this abandoned game that everyone kind of thinks is going to be a Silent Hill game. So the last time we checked on it, there was some really weird stuff going on where there was broken English in the trailer that seemed very Hideo Kojima. The guy who was leading the studio, Blue Box, who was making the game, if you put his name into Google Translate from Turkish to English, the name translated to Hideo, which is like crazy because that does not seem like a coincidence. And then they also said that the game that they're making starts with S and ends with L, which made everyone think Silent Hill. And since then, this whole thing has totally ballooned out into a crazy controversy where they had a guy get on camera and say that he's Hassan, but he's like looking left and right the entire time. It doesn't totally look like he's actually being honest. It's just a crazy saga that's continued to just build on top of itself. And all of this weird stuff is culminating this Friday in an app that's going to be available on the PS5 from Blue Box Studios that's going to announce this abandoned game and what it actually is. No one really knows what to expect with it because just like with the trailer for Abandoned, all of the tweets that are announcing this app have kind of been in cryptic, weird, broken English, and people are still just very skeptical that this is just a new game from a new studio. It really does feel like it's going to have some relation to Silent Hill at the very least, or Kojima, which would be the best option in my opinion. And there is some weird stuff going on with Silent Hill right now. Like Konami's updated their merch store with a bunch of new Silent Hill designs, which is coinciding with this app release this Friday. It's all just coming to a head in a very bizarre way. And also, if you're on PC, this app is going to be available there to try out too. So I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be a Silent Hill game, but I really want it to be. And either way, this was a fun thing to kind of piece together as a whole community, right? I feel like Kojima games getting announced are always this big event. So that's what's got people on board, and everyone was having fun trying to figure it out. And that's just the stuff I like to see. There was no negativity surrounding it. It was a community coming together to try and figure out a cool puzzle. Like on the surface, it is cool that we are potentially getting Silent Hill back, but the important thing here is that would really open the floodgates for the rest of Konami's IP. They have stuff like Metal Gear Solid and Castlevania. Castlevania has a huge Netflix show right now, and it would be awesome to be able to play some new Castlevania games on these next-gen consoles. I feel like Konami is best served right now giving their IP to PlayStation or Kojima to really make something cool with it instead of just sitting on it and making gambling machines to go in casinos. Konami is one of the biggest publishers in the industry. They have some of the coolest IP and they're just sitting on it. So I want to see some new stuff coming out of that publisher. And I feel like everyone else feels that way too because they're trying to make this abandoned game a Silent Hill game. They're trying to will it into existence, which is crazy to see. Okay, so obviously Friday came and went and we didn't have the app, and that is because it was actually delayed again at the last minute until August. But people are still holding strong and thinking that this is a Silent Hill game because, as I mentioned, the videos that this Hassan guy are putting out are absolutely insane, and they totally look like he's a trained actor and not a guy who owns a game studio that had a Kickstarter for $200 and then somehow managed to get a PS5 exclusive off of that. Do you see why people think this is Silent Hill? Because I see why people think this is Silent Hill. And continuing on with our super games heavy news roundup, we're gonna talk about Marvel's Avengers. Now, I've mentioned this game a couple times here on the channel because it's one of the games that's continually burning my soul. I spent $60 to play this on day one, expecting a game like Destiny or The Division 2, and I did not get that at all. There's no end game in this game, the story's fine or whatever, but Square Enix really dropped the ball with one of the biggest IPs on planet Earth, and that's been bumming me out. I feel like they've been trying to string us along with small updates that just do cosmetic changes to levels. They made it so you were no longer locked off on having all of the Avengers be only one player, like you could do 2 Hulks or 4 Iron Men or whatever you wanted to do. And now they've got a new boss fight in the game that seems like it's really not making people happy, and there's a big problem with it that it shows your IP address on the screen when you play this DLC. So obviously that's not great because every time they patch this game, all they do is put in a bunch of new skins that cost an insane amount of money, and then the new content itself doesn't really work all that well. feel like every time Avengers gets an update, there's either a game-breaking bug or something like this where people's IP address is being displayed on the screen. That's the stuff that's unacceptable. This is a AAA game, it has the Avengers IP, and if I'm Disney and I'm seeing how embarrassingly this game is going to turn out, I would be knocking on Crystal Dynamics' door saying, hey, stop advertising that Wakanda expansion that you have coming out this year because this game is done. And it really seems like Square Enix is done with it too, because instead of announcing the Guardians of the Galaxy as an expansion for Avengers, which would make a ton of sense because Square Enix makes Avengers, they're just making it its own game. And that is absolutely wild because they're kind of competing with themselves there. I know there's a ton of diehard Avengers fans out there, but stuff like releasing a new update and then making every reward for it be weird like nameplates and emblems and stuff, and putting all the actual skins that aren't even that cool in the paid store, and then doing stuff like introducing movie skins after almost a year and charging insane amounts of money for them, it feels like Square Enix knows the writing is on the wall for this game and they're trying to recoup the millions of dollars they've lost on it already before they just pull the plug indefinitely. One of the bigger things that was supposed to be announced at this rumored state of play was a native PS5 release of Ghost of Tsushima alongside maybe, crossing our fingers, that PC release which is rumored to be in the works. But Sony decided to throw us a curveball this morning and just came out and full on announced Ghost of Tsushima's director's cut. Now we knew this was coming because it was rated by the ESRB and it was only rated for PS4 and PS5, but thankfully it is coming to both consoles. But it's a little confusing. We'll get into it in a sec, but I want to talk about what this expansion actually is first. So unlike Sucker Punch's other standalone expansions, this Iki expansion is going to be featuring Jin, and it's just going to be a new area to explore. So it's actually a lot like the expansion for Horizon Zero Dawn, which was like they had a separate part of the story that didn't make it into the full game, and now they're adding it back in. So if you get to the second act of Ghost of Tsushima, you can just start up this DLC chapter and you probably won't even realize that you're doing a new expansion, which is kind of cool. Basically what happens is Jin hears that there's Mongols on an island that's next to Tsushima called Iki, so he heads over there to make sure that the island is safe, and I'm assuming that there probably are going to be a lot of Mongols there, and you're gonna have to do those sweet standoffs where they're a little too easy, but they're pretty cool because you get that awesome sword slash. So not only are you getting a new story and a new area, there's going to be new trophies, and the blog post goes out of its way to say that there's going to be new animals to pet, which is obviously the best part. So because this director's cut is coming to the PS5 natively alongside the full game, you're actually going to get a lot of features included with it that aren't in this PS5 patch that the game already received. The first one is basic. Obviously, you're going to get those haptic triggers and all that great vibration stuff that everyone loves. They're going to drastically reduce load times, which is really awesome because right now, the load times aren't even that bad. I know when you fast travel, it's pretty much instant when you load back into the game. So if they're going to make that even shorter, I'll be surprised if we even see a loading screen in this. Like Spider-Man Miles Morales, for example, when you ride the subway, there used to be a cutscene that was interactive in Spider-Man PS4, and then they had to make it an option to turn that back on because the load times were so fast, it didn't even make sense to show you the subway scenes. And that's exactly what it seems like we're going to get here. Another thing that the PS5 re-release is getting that the PS4 director's cut will not have is full lip syncing for the Japanese voice tracks. I know a lot of people love to play this game in Japanese because it just made it feel more immersive. So now if you play it in Japanese, you're going to get the lip syncing to go along with it on PS5. That's pretty cool. And then to round it all out, you're getting the 3D audio, which I actually like a lot, and it's going to be targeting full 4K, but the most important thing here is that it's going to be locked at 60 frames per second. So you'll never miss one of those sword slashes, and you'll never miss with your bow and arrow, and you'll have that nice haptic trigger feedback on the bow and arrow, and I'm excited. It's gonna be a lot of fun to actually play this game as a native PS5 game because it came out so close to the PS5 and it looked so good on the PS4 that everyone was kind of like, why didn't you just hold on to it and release it as a native PS5 game? And now it seems like the plan all along was to make a native PS5 version. Where this package starts simple but gets a little bit weird is with the pricing. So if you're one of those people who have never bought Ghost of Tsushima, you're actually in the easy side of the camp because you just have to buy the game once for a full price no matter what console you're on. If you're on PS4, you get it for 60 bucks. If you're on PS5, you get it for 70 bucks. There's some new skins, you get the Legends mode, you get everything that's ever been released for Ghost of Tsushima all packed in with the new expansion. It's simple. If you already own Ghost of Tsushima on PS4 and you don't plan on playing it on PS5 for some reason, you can upgrade your PS4 copy of the regular game to the new director's cut for a cool $20, which honestly seems a little bit fair. It's like you're paying 20 bucks for the expansion and getting like all of these other updates on top of that. And then if you're one of these people, right, who don't have a PS5 right now and you have Ghost of Tsushima on PS4 and you pay the $20 to upgrade it to the director's cut and then you get a PS5 in August when this expansion releases, you can pay another $10 to upgrade it to the PS5 version of the director's cut. Or if you don't want to get the director's cut when it comes out and then you get a PS5, you can upgrade it from the base edition of Ghost of Tsushima on PS4 to the director's cut on PS5 for $30. There are so many numbers flying around here. I don't know why Sony keeps doing this, where they make it so complicated to upgrade their games. You're gonna get the save transfer no matter what, which is nice. If you get this PS5 upgrade, I like that. That makes it automatically better than the system we had on Spider-Man PS4, but they did the same thing where if you wanted to get Spider-Man remastered on PS5, right? You wanted to play the whole original game with these new textures, new effects that they added in for Miles Morales. It was not available for purchase on its own. You had to buy Miles Morales and then get this like standalone upgrade, and then you had to have the PS4 version downloaded on your PS5, and then you had to export the save, then you could delete the PS4 version, then you had to import the save to the PS5 version, and it should have just been a free upgrade because all they did was really just make the graphics look a little bit better. And that's kind of how I feel with Ghost of Tsushima right now. Like, I already own it on PS4, I should just have to pay that $20 and that should just upgrade me to this new PS5 version because that's what every other publisher is doing. They're doing free upgrades. I mean, EA of all people, all you need to do to get the upgrade to the native PS5 version of Jedi Fallen Order is take your PS4 disc and put it in your PS5, and then it gives you a free digital copy. Like, EA is showing you up, Sony. EA is showing you up. That is not good. That is not good for your reputation, and you gotta figure it out. This is a game I've been chipping away at since it launched. I started playing it right after The Last of Us Part 2, and I was like, this is not what I'm looking for right now, so I set it down, and then after I finished my PS5 launch games, I heard this got the patch, so I popped it in, and I really kind of like, I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't hooking me, and I'm hoping that this new PS5 native re-release is what gets me to finally commit to finishing this game, because I really want to do the multiplayer, the Legend stuff that they're also giving updates to, by the way, and I feel like this will just finally be what pushes me over. I wish it was a PC release, but it seems like if they didn't announce it today, they're not going to announce it for a long time, so I'm just going to live with it and play it on my PS5. But that is all the PlayStation news I have for you guys today. Make sure you let me know what you think about all of these PC releases down in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already as well. As always, guys, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.